Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Brearley, episode 27 of Soulmates and Suitcases. I'm sitting next to my amazing husband, Scott Brearley, and we have an amazing guest today, Julie Wignall, and you are going to love our conversation. So stay tuned. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay,
It
perfect.
is so good to
Very
meet
good.
you.
Nice
It's
to meet
good
you
to
too,
meet you as
Julie.
well.
Where do you hail from, Julie?
From all over the world, but right now living in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada. It's kind of like living on the face of the sun. It's
That's kind of like Ashcroft here. We're in the desert too, in
oh,
Canada.
oh my gosh. Well, I keep saying I don't know how in the world I ended up here, but they need me here. They don't know it, but they need me here.
Uh-huh.
That's exciting.
I'm like the little Lorax screaming for the environment and the air quality and everything else. And ha,
Yay. Have a varied background, I think is extremely interesting. Understanding where you put your money, like where your priorities, right? Where you put your,
yeah, that's exactly it.
yeah,
It's, yeah, we need to do a lot of prioritizing
I
throughout this country. We need to
yeah.
do a lot of prioritizing lately.
yeah,
But, a lot of people are upset about different things. And I feel that we're here on purpose, to say this is an opportunity to say everything's going to fall apart. Stop focusing on everything falling apart. What do you want to create?
yeah.
How do, we figure out? Because honestly, I have to say, I think that one of the reasons why we're in this ridiculous situation that we're in is that, a lot of our systems are broken. And they don't work.
They're
And
dated.
And
that's well, and that's where you say we have to figure out where's our money, where's our priorities. Well, what kind of people are we if we're not providing health care? We're not taking care of our veterans, we're not providing education.
you know what
Yeah,
though? Free healthcare doesn't work. Like we
not
have free
always.
healthcare in Canada,
I get
and
It's
that.
a broken
it's
system
a
too.
broken system too. So it's like I got stuff done in Thailand because I could pay for it and get it done like that.
I get that.
Yeah,
That's where we need to sit down and, it's like we have a huge homeless problem here. And I don't have the answer for the homeless, but I know that there are innovators out there that somebody has some really good thoughts on this,
yeah,
who really understands the system from all different aspects. And I want to pull those people together and
yeah,
get
Well,
them, to start working on.
it's even the same. It's all got to do with addiction. Whether
Yeah,
they're addicts or not on the street, it's still got to do with addiction. And one, the government now wants to throw harm reduction at it, which doesn't
yeah.
work. And they don't want to supply the mental health stuff, like proper mental health, without having to go to somebody and paying them 200 bucks. I don't know what it's like in the States,
Yeah.
but it's 150 or 200 bucks an hour to pay somebody that can actually help you here.
Yeah, that's kind of what's like. Well, I'll tell you, I went to school in Australia, and I have a friend in New Zealand, and she just sent me a note. She said they opened some kind of a clinic here, and I've never really gone to talk to somebody, and I've just been like really down in the dumps, and I've been feeling like I don't have a whole lot of energy, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna go. And she said I spent this wonderful hour and a half. It was completely free. Well, she's in New Zealand. Um, and she said, I realized that I've undergone a lot of trauma that I really haven't acknowledged this year. So that was really good. 2 days later, I am reading an article from a guy who said, you know what? I felt like I had mental health issues. I wasn't feeling suicidal. I wasn't feeling like I wanted to lash out at anybody, but I thought I need somebody to talk to. So he shows up at a clinic, and the next thing you know, because of the way the system works, they put him under 72-hour observation and they started shooting him up with lithium. And I'm like, this doesn't work, guys. And then because he didn't want the lithium, they said, no, it's not in your bloodstream enough. And they kept him for another 30 days. It's like, this is a system that is broken.
yeah.
And that's part of my whole thing is moving past all this to get all the people who have different visions and empowering them to say we got to move past this stuff.
Yeah, we there's a lot of band-aids being used, like a ton of band-aids being used. And we started personal kind of development work about 5-ish years
Well,
ago.
I've been in it most of my life, but just the 12-step form, and even that's broken nowadays.
But it takes a lot of work,
Hmm.
self-work, right, to start to make that impact on yourself and then make an impact outside as well, right?
Right,
You have
right.
to take care of yourself. So, like, I know what I'm discovering is that so many people have that trauma background and we've been affected. They have a lot of trauma in their life. They've been affected by external things that many of us in this society right now have not thought of. The industrialization, the food that is no longer really food, that is supposed to be like fueling us to think and to work and to make decisions that we're so screwed up on the inside, so messed up on the inside. It's in some way not our fault. However, it is in our power to now make a change.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the whole reason why I chose fireflies
Yes.
for my book. Everything, and I use the fireflies as a metaphor because anytime I talk to anybody anywhere in the world, if you've grown up seeing a firefly, it immediately brings, a spark to someone and a
Yeah.
sparkle, and smile. And I remember those. And even if it's somebody who's never seen fireflies, they've seen pictures, they've seen something, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is magical. And my whole purpose of this was kind of like on a subliminal level. I want people to get back in touch with where they were before all this trauma occurred. Because when we come in and we come in as kids, we are a lot clearer. We're a lot
Well,
closer to a source energy. We're a lot clearer on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden we start becoming in what we call enculturated. And it's little things of watching a kid say, I don't want to play with that color crayon because I like this color. And watching a parent go, oh no, honey, you no, you really do like this. I don't want to go ice skating. Oh, of course you do. You love ice skating. Well, think about it. So by the time we get to be 12 or 13 years old, and I say, well, what do you like? I don't know anymore.
hmm
I don't know anymore. I had the opportunity to work with 15-year-old boys in a wonderful, wonderful place in Utah. These were kids that were in so much trouble and so messed up that their parents just shipped them out to boarding school. And with the background in environmental biology, I got to do a conservation oriented program with them. And after the first day, I noticed these guys were walking around with the weight of the world on their shoulders and they were angry.
Yeah.
And I finally stopped and I looked at them and I said, okay, if I were your fairy godmother and I could come knocking on your door and I said, your wish is my command, whatever's going to make you happy, here I am and I'm going to give it to you. What would you ask for? And in my head, I'm thinking they're going to say, I want to be a famous rap star. I want $1 million, this or that. And they all stared at me with blank stares.
Yeah.
And one of the kids said to me, and it really hit me hard, he said, no one's ever asked me what makes me happy. And think about this, and I now do this a lot with adults. What makes you happy? And it tells you anybody who's working on themselves from the inside versus anyone who's just on autopilot in terms of going through their life. What makes you happy? I don't know. Or you find the person who does know. And it was fascinating because after a day or two, they started coming up to me one at a time. What are the things that make them happy? And one of the guys came to me and said, you know what? I realized that what makes me really happy is when I'm at home on Sunday mornings, my dad and I get up before everybody else and we make pancakes for the family. That makes me happy. Someone else came and said, I love when I get to walk my dog in the woods and it's just the two of us. And little by little, they started bringing in things that make them happy. And I realized, what really makes us happy are the moments,
Yeah.
are
Oh,
the small pieces, right? Along the way when we connect with each other. When we get past all the craziness of the world and society. And it's kind of like getting back into that pure state of when we were 6 or 7 and out in the field catching fireflies. And for us, we need to be reminded. I don't feel like I'm teaching anybody anything new. I
Yeah.
think it's reminding them, you
Yeah.
know, you've had the power all along, reminding them it's there and inside of you, and you have that magic. You just have to kind of pull away all of the layers. And I think, as someone who spent over 40 years studying Jungian psychology, when I was working on my book, I met this wonderful woman who was working on a book of her own that was called All God's Children Got Problems. And I went, that's because we all have trauma. And there's always, in one form or another, we have some kind of childhood trauma. And then what do? We tend to spend like the rest of our lives trying to figure it out, sort it through, and go back to that. And we don't have a lot of systems within our societies that say, wait a minute, let's go back and take time for you. Let's go revisit you and who you are, what you value, what's important to you, what is the type of person you want to be, and what are the things that has influenced that over the years. And there are things that have influenced us all that we welcome. There are also things that have influenced us all and experiences where we could do without. But part of it is acknowledging those,
Yeah.
learning, what have we gained from those things? And part of my point in terms of fireflies shine the brightest in the dark. So we don't push that part away. We bring it in, we face it, and we kind of carry it to the side of us so that it's not steering us in terms of the future.
So let me go back, Julie. What brings you joy? What brings you joy?
Ah, connecting with amazing people all over the world. And I love the concept of your podcast of soulmates and suitcases and always ready to go and explore something new. And I definitely have the travel bug. And my mother called me her, just wondering. I never know where she's going to be. She's going to be someplace. But there's a whole world out there, and there's so
Yeah.
much more that we know, and there are so many people. And every time that I get that chance to connect with like-minded and kindred spirits anywhere, that brings me joy.
It was when you were talking about how it's something that I've just really realized in the last little while is like we're so programmed, we don't even know who we are.
Mm.
No,
And we don't know how to love because we're told how to love.
yeah,
No,
And,
yeah,
and
exactly.
so at the self-development class that me and Lisa met at, we were there for 7 days and they were doing this high ropes exercise. And the night before, we were told to write a list of our hopes, dreams, and goals. And we were on silent mode. And so I write this. I've been around 12-step programs for years and I'm in a bad headspace. So you can imagine what my hopes, dreams, and goals were. Like they were just like, and they were junk. So thankfully, in the morning, I woke up and before my eyes were even open, it was like, you ripped yourself off once again.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, one of the things that I wanted, I decided I wanted a partner. I would get really scary and want a partner. So, the high rope exercise, there's this guy, Felipe. He's asking questions before you go up, and he goes, so, what's your top goal? And I said, well, my hope is I can find a partner. And he goes to me, what are you going to say to her when you wake up in the morning? I said, I'll roll over and say, hey, babe, I love you. And he goes, well, why don't you one up it? And in my brain, I'm thinking, how can you one up that? And he goes, why don't you roll over and say, hey, babe, how can I love you today?
Aw,
And you know what? It's like I use it with my friends as well. Not quite, I love you, but I mean, some of my
right,
friends I love, but it's like, how can I be your friend today? Or how can I support you today?
right.
Because I don't know what you need for support. And it's just stepping back and taking the me out of it and just and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like we have an amazing relationship. And it's like if you had have told me this type of relationship would have ever been possible for somebody like me, I would have laughed at you and said you need to go to the nut ward. And
But,
it
but you
takes
just said
less.
something that I think that we all do. How could somebody like me?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the key. We all walk around, and I think like one of the number one things that we all face, we've all dealt with trauma, but how does it play out in our lives? We walk around and not for someone like me. Why? Because I don't deserve it.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. These kind of things happen to other people. They don't happen to me. And we belittle ourselves. When I get people into a room, and I love doing workshops, I do an exercise of 5 questions. First question, who are you? And I have people write that down. Who are you? And it's amazing. People, well, this is how I identify. I'm a man, I'm married, I'm a father, I'm a da 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 da. So my second question is, who are you? And my third question is, who are you? And it's like, let's go through all those layers until number 5. Who are you? We all are a being of light. So how can we be not good enough? How can we be not deserve? We're a being of light. If we get rid of all of those layers, we're fireflies. We all have a light inside of us. Every person is deserving. Every person it is worthy of being happy. And I work on a level of saying, let's transform the world. Well, you want to know what transforms the world? The most happy people and people who love each other
Yeah.
and people
Yeah.
who know how to love their friends and their people around them. People understand the value of community because you were right, exactly what you said. It's one thing to turn to uh, and say, I love you and what can I do for you? But to be able to do that to a friend,
Yeah.
to a neighbor, it's a different kind of love. And you realize even in our language how limited we are. We use the term love for everything instead of saying there are different types of love.
Mm.
Some of these ancient languages, they're like 57 different terms for love. When you say, I love that sunset, it's got its own word. We turn around and we go, honey, I love you to our spouses, our significant others. And then we turn to the dog and the family cat and go, I love you too. And then we pick up our favorite pasta and we go, I love this meal, right? And we go, how is this all like equal using the same word? So it's, and part of that is our language is limited. When you say, I love a sunset, or there's a moment in the afternoon when the sun's just hitting the right place and you're watching clouds go by and you go, I love this feeling. It's very different than when you turn to your wife or your husband or like I said, significant other and say, I love you. Um, it's all different, but we tend to throw everything into the same pot instead of sitting back and becoming aware.
Yeah.
Aware, and if you want to be aware of the world, you got to start by being aware of yourself.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Now, just in our conversation we've been having so far, you're inspiring me to continue on my journey, and that is to write books, which are about love and self-love and love for others, and as well to continue positively impacting children, because I am a teacher and I do feel like that it really has broken my heart almost over the last several years seeing children as young as kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2 are really dysregulated and unhappy with themselves and who they are and feel and look often out of control. And so you're definitely inspiring me. And so I want to
Good.
bring it back to your book because you have a lot of inspirational people in your book. Who kind of stands out the most for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, let me tell you the reason why. Let me give you a backstory first. The
Yeah.
reason why I have other people in my book, someone said to me, why would you write about these other people? Well, because to me, if I just write about me, and I've had a very unconventional and unusual life, if I were reading my own book, I would be sitting there thinking, well, that's fine for her. But I couldn't do that. It's not me. So there are certain principles that I've learned and lessons that I've learned over the year. But my concept is there's not just one way to the top of the mountain.
No.
It's like when you get those diet books and they say, you've got to follow my way, and that's the only way you're going to lose weight or forget it. And it's like, well, but it didn't really work. Oh, of course, but you just didn't do it right. And it's like, no, we each have a path. And it doesn't have to be the same path. So what I did was is I looked around the world and I said, I want to find people that I can use as an example for different things that I'm doing and say, these are people who use the same principles that I used, but they did it in a completely different way because it's not my way or the highway. Everybody gets to find their own way. But pulling back the curtains, I'll tell you, imagine writing this during the pandemic. And the first group that I had 25 people that I was looking to incorporate in the book. And if I gave you a list of names, you'd probably go, oh, that sounds familiar. I've heard of this person, that
Yeah.
person. And that was a really interesting news story. Well, for me, if I want to be authentic, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. So I reached out to everybody because I wanted to make sure that they knew they were going to be in the book. I wanted them to review what I wrote, make sure it was accurate, and that they were comfortable with this. And what I found were the first group of people I went after, they were all frauds. They were not what was presented in the press. As I would get closer to trying to reach the person, I'd have people close to them going, why do you want to put that person in the book? Do you know what a jerk that person is? And I was like, oh, I don't really want to do this. And I got to tell you, middle of the pandemic, and I'm looking around going, is there anybody good in the world? I was like the low of the low. And I had a wonderful publisher. And she said to me, take your time and step back from everything and give it a couple of weeks. And then I want you to start all over again from the beginning and dive deeper. And I have 20 people that I've written about that are all over the world doing everything from art to medical things to I've got a guy right now who is 79 years old. They're still going and he walks and he's getting ready to go on a journey of walking from Johannesburg in South Africa. He's going to walk all the way up to Egypt. Um,
Oh,
Amazing, amazing people. And these people continue to inspire me every day. When I look around and or I get frustrated with something, I go, they're still doing it. You know, the books are out there, but they're still growing and they're at all different ages. And I love what you're talking about in terms of kids because my thing since this book is that any kind of project that I work on has to be multi-generational. We need to be putting generations together. I am sick and tired of this has to be a youth-led movement or this has to be a senior movement. No, this has to be a human-led movement. And we need all these different eyes and perspectives working together. We need those little kids because they're closer to being past and not dealing with the stuff that we're all dealing with in terms of different traumas. Um, they get it. And we need that 10-year-old that goes, I'm bored with this. I just want to play because we forgot to play as we grew up. And it's like, that's really important today. We all need to be feeding that and playing and to be part of this. And we need to look at how we take care of each other and to be able to do that. And the whole concept in terms of, you guys working with relationships, you have to start by learning how to love yourself. And
mhm.
it's like I've done things with teenagers, and people of all ages saying, what does a good friend look like to you? And what does this mean? And what do you do? And the average person was like, I have to be there for this. And I want to take care of them and I want to treat them gently. And sometimes I just want to sit with them. They have a whole list. And it's like, now go back and tell me how many of those things you do for yourself.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Hmm.
And, to say something nice for no reason at all, to pick up something that's just kind of a treat, just to celebrate in an afternoon for no reason at all. Well, why don't we do that with ourselves?
One of the courses that Lisa and I took, we were told to write a story about a tree, and Lisa wrote it about me, and then we had to stand up and read it out loud. And when she read it out loud, it was actually really all about her.
Mhm.
Oh,
It
that's
was,
Yeah,
it was pretty
that's
cool.
it was a
that.
very cool experience, actually.
I remember I could still picture her face when the light bulb went on, and it was like, I'm talking about
About
me.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those aha moments,
Yeah.
and they just take us deeper and deeper. And if we could get that confidence inside of us to know that we are okay, no matter what, exactly as we are, we're fine. Nothing needs to be fixed, nothing needs to be changed. We're fine as we are. It becomes our choice to grow and expand, and to continue to do that. But we need to know that we're coming from a place where everything is good,
Yeah.
just as we are. And we don't acknowledge that enough.
Hmm.
Um, and we certainly don't do it with one another, because there's the picking it's like, no, there's so much more. There's
Oh,
so much
yeah.
to the world that when we deal with that. But I think part of this is when we get excited or inspired to do something, we immediately clam up and go, I don't know, should I move
Yeah.
forward, or what should I do? And in Jungian psychology, Carl Jung once said, if the path before you is clear, you are probably on someone else's.
There you
And
go.
one of the things that we don't teach our kids, we don't teach ourselves, is we say, oh, it's the journey, not the destination. But we just give lip service to that. We don't really live it. And I'll say, okay, so you finally reach that destination and you accomplish whatever it is, the first thing that you set out to accomplish. And we're human. What do? We pat ourselves on the back for maybe a total of
Done.
5 seconds. Stunned, right? That was that. But if we're with other people, we sit down and we don't talk about everything that went right. Think about it. We talk about everything that went wrong. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that we're here. Do you remember that crazy time when it all fell apart, or we couldn't do this or we couldn't do that? And we laugh. And I'll tell clients a lot, sit down and watch any of these the award shows, and where people go on and on. They have to thank this person and this person and this person, or a talk show. Well, the thanking everybody tells you that nobody does this alone. But they'll talk about things in the past that they'll just laugh about. But if you stop and you think about what they're saying, it was an experience that probably was pretty traumatic and pretty painful at the time. But when it's past and you've kind of overcome it, you sit back and you go, oh yeah, but oh, are you ready to climb the next mountain? Oh my gosh, then we start, because that's the first thing we do when we have an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a new mountain for me to go tackle. And then we start the whole thing all over again. We start imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving. It's okay that I did what I did, but I don't know if I've got what I need to have to go for the next one.
Yeah, and
So
it builds your resilience, right? Builds your resilience. And I think
exactly,
one of the things that comes to my mind when you're talking about um, being proud of who you are is every day finding the gratitude. It reminds you instead of going to that negative all the time.
right. And and you hit the nail on the head. Gratitude, to me, that is the secret sauce.
Yeah.
That is the secret sauce of the magic that takes place. That even if you're down in the dumps or things are really tough, you're going to attract things that are going to be continually tough unless you do a pivot and you start, even if it's the simplest thing. I still have my feet and I still have my hands, and I have a shirt on my back and I'm wearing pants, and so you start building up little by
Yeah.
little. And
Yeah,
yeah,
starts to build. One of the visuals, because I do work with kids, I think I have that sort of mindset too, that I need a picture, is that I often remind myself I am born perfect. I've been layered over my life with other people's thoughts, beliefs, opinions, stories. And so it's like rediscovering me or my perfection within or whatever, my state within. So it's like peeling off those layers that everybody else has plastered on me.
yes. And that's one of the reasons I love using my book with teenagers. Because we start out when we're little. What happens to every kid in elementary school?
Yeah.
Oh, you can grow up and be anything you want to be. You can do anything that you want to do. Okay, so you have all these ideas, all these things, and then all of a sudden you hit your teens, and all of a sudden adults start saying to you, well, you need to do something that's going to give you a good income, and you need to do, then stop thinking about doing this and this and this. And we start squashing everybody's dreams because now you have to have the right job and making the right salary and doing all the things that society says that you're going to do. To me, we should be taking those dreams and wishes that these kids have when they're young and little, and then they grow up and they become teenagers, and their dreams just take a different bent on them. And instead of poo-pooing them and saying no, we need to show them how to make that come true. The whole concept of no, you can't be an artist. I'm married to an artist, by the way, that was what he heard. You're gonna grow up and be a starving artist, and you're never gonna do. And it's like, oh, honey, are you still doing that again? And you really have to fight that to say, wait a minute, this is a career, and you don't have to be a starving artist. It's a business, but we have to teach people and train people to say, what are those extra skills that you need? You can be the most fabulous artist in the world, but if you don't know how to market yourself, nobody's going to see what you've got. Let's talk about all the different ways that art is used in society,
Yeah.
from graphic design to today, to film, to whatever, and start opening up the world to these kids who are creative and innovative, and they have different ideas. And it's just like we said before, I may not know how to solve our healthcare problems.
Someone can.
Someone can, and you turn this
Yeah.
to, someone who's got a vision, or a kid that says, why aren't we doing this? And you put them with someone of another generation saying, well, we tried that and it didn't work. Maybe if we work together and we pivot,
Yeah.
and you have people from all different angles coming to work together to show what can be done.
Oh yeah. I'm super excited for this shift of mindfulness, of creativity, of open to conversation, all that sort of thing happening in the world. And like I know even for myself, this is probably 10 years ago as a teacher, and I'm usually around kindergarten, grade 1, 2 teacher. And if I had something I could not solve, I literally would say, okay, everybody stop. I have a question and I need some help. Because why wouldn't they have answers? Because they're always creating.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes I think kids start out as geniuses and we just become dumber as we get older. And instead of getting more
Be genius.
information, because we lose that. We forget to play, we forget to tap into our
Yeah.
creativity, because that's where it all is. And part of this for me, and in terms of these amazing people that I've written about, it's the concept of also being authentic, and it's saying, okay, let's bring it back to us personally.
Yeah.
What kind of life do you want to live? What's going to make you happy? How do you determine success? Because success for each of us is different. You could give me all kinds of big fancy cars that are worth lots and lots of money, and I don't know one from another. So that would not be how I would qualify success. Get me a plane ticket around the world and we're talking.
Yeah.
But we each have our own thing that's different, and we need to honor that. But then it's also, how do you work on a daily basis? If I want to live in a world where we can all really connect and be authentic, then I have to be authentic. And that means if I'm having a bad day, or things aren't working out the way that I want, or I tried to go in one direction or not, you get those get-togethers where everybody has to boast that, oh, life is so great and I'm doing this and that, to be able to say, you know what? No, I really muck things up and it's not
Yeah.
going in the direction right now that I want. That's being authentic. And when we do that, you open it up and you give everybody else permission
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
100%.
do it too. To say, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't feel like we had to put on a face to pretend something that we're not, that we just get to be who we are.
Yeah,
And to
exactly.
recognize that, which is really kind of a neat feeling.
Hmm. Now, we could probably talk forever with you. Amazing conversation. For our audience, where can they get your book? How can they find you, Julie?
The easiest way to find anything with me is through my website, which is just www.extraordinary fireflies.com. And that's got all the links to social media. But what it also has on it is a free download that is called Flying Lessons for Fireflies. And what that has is this 5 basic exercises and, being aware what makes me happy, doing the work, what makes me happy? How do I define success? And I have, when you talk about awareness, we all need to increase our awareness. I have what we call the grocery store exercise in there, which I have lots of groups and clients do. And this started, I was sitting and working with someone one day, and I said, "You are being so snarky this afternoon. You're like angry. What's going on?" And he stopped and he went, "Oh my gosh, I have a headache. I didn't even realize that I have a headache." And I'm sitting there thinking, how in the world can you have a headache and not know that? So we start with the awareness exercise, and it starts with just being aware of yourself, checking your body from head to toe. How are you feeling? How is everything? And then how do you go through a grocery store? Have you ever sat down with these people who say, "Oh, I am in such alignment and I feel really good." And then they get behind the wheel of a car and they start screaming, "That idiot did this and that idiot did-" And you go, "What happened to kind of like the alignment?" But how do you go through a grocery store? Are you one of these people who just goes and says, "I'm here to get an apple. That's it. I'm going to get the apple and I'm going to leave"? Are you aware of other things that are on the shelves? Would you know if the woman down at the end of the aisle needs help grabbing something from the top shelf? Do you know the name of the person at the cash register who checks you out? How do you maneuver? Because the same way that you maneuver that, and what do you do if there's an obstacle? When someone's got their cart in the middle of the aisle, do you ask them to move the cart? Do you ask nicely? Do you push it aside? Or do you say, "You know what? There are other aisles. I can go around another way because there's always another way." How do you do that? So that's all in the free download of Flying Lessons for Fireflies. And what that does is it puts everybody on a mailing list where once a week I sent out a very, very short email. Tuesdays are my days of something that is short and encouraging and hopefully inspiring, just to say wherever you are in your week and whatever you're doing, this is your reminder in case nobody told you today, you are important and you are special and you deserve everything that's wonderful.
I love
Because I
it.
think we all need to hear that.
Yes, I agree. And others need to be heard. That's
Yeah.
that's part of it as well. Will you show us your book up close? I see you have it behind you there. Will you show us what it looks like?
Always. So here's the extraordinary power of fireflies. And the concept is when someone says to you, "But how can I make a difference in the world? I'm just one person." Well, you start by saying, imagine just one firefly and the impact that that has on you. And now I'm going to tell you that in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee and in Malaysia, which is where this cover came from, the concept, there are what they call synchronous fireflies. So imagine a forest that's so dark that you cannot see your fingers. And it doesn't happen until later at night, but they begin coming out and they come out by the hundreds of the thousands and they blink together and another group blinks back. And fireflies are not all just yellow in the Smoky Mountains. They also have what they call blue ghost fireflies. They're all on the forest floor. So when you look down, they look like little landing strips, all blue, um, all lit up. So fireflies come in a lot of different colors too. There's all kinds of them. There's over 2,000 species. So I say this is a family that embraces a lot of diversity.
Love it. Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you,
Thank you very
Julie.
much,
Thank you.
Julie.
Thank you. We started our podcast with in Thailand, and so we automatically go like this often
I,
at the end.
well, I love that
It
though.
means
I
thank
think,
you.
and I tell everybody, when you do that with the namaste,
Yeah.
that actually namaste, the translation in Sanskrit is the light in me sees the light in you. And what a great way in terms of connecting with people.
Yes. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
appreciate you very much.
It's been great.
And we're
Listen,
we love it.
it's funny how you say we were talking about being programmed. It's like I've realized recently I'm so programmed I can't even let my wife give me a
Compliment.
compliment. It's like she calls me a genius and I want to justify why I'm not and why I shouldn't be and and it's like that's her perception. So why am I taking that away from her? So that's me programming her as well as
Yes.
programming
And
the
why
kid.
not? And then why not accepting it?
I know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And saying, you know what? Yeah, kind of step in. And that's the whole concept. We need everybody shining brighter. And you know what? And when someone says to you, Scott, you're a genius, you go, well, let me tell you a couple things that I kind of think about. Because you've just qualified yourself in our minds to
Yeah.
say yes. And then you have a platform. What you guys both have is something really incredible and really important to share and to put it out there. Because, like I said, when you share it and you're doing it, people who are standing on the sidelines are going, if they can do it, so can I.
You tell us and you love me more as every day goes by. And I feel so lucky that I get to call you mine. No matter what comes our way, I can always say, I know we'll win the fight. Baby, it's you and me, here's to the rest of our